Hi, this is Sherry with Mark, and this presentation is the CaseWorthy upgrade to version 8.0 user acceptance testing walkthrough. We'll spend about 20-25 minutes today stepping through this presentation to give you a little background about the user acceptance testing that we've asked you to do. The agenda is going to talk about why are we upgrading, why your help is important to us, what is a UAT environment. There are CaseWorthy has provided new user requirements for computer systems for the users. We'll step through that. I'll show you just a couple of the new features on the screen here, and then we'll actually go out to the user acceptance test environment and show them to you out there. And then lastly, we'll step through what are the exact next things you need to do. Okay, first of all, why are we upgrading? Currently, our CaseWorthy is on version 7.2. About 6 to 8 months ago, CaseWorthy came out with a newer version called version 8.0. We were not required to be on that version. As a matter of fact, many of CaseWorthy's other clients did go ahead and convert. So good thing is they worked out the kinks for us. But now CaseWorthy has come out and said, starting on June 1st of this year, they're no longer going to support the earlier versions. So that is one of the main reasons why we are converting at this time. Another reason is CaseWorthy is expected to come out with a new user interface for their software this year, and that will require version 8.0, so we'll be ready when that is available to us. And then lastly, there are some new features that we understand we can take advantage of in the rollout of not only coordinated entry, but also in relation to data sharing. Now, when we talk about CaseWorthy's version 8.0 and what's included in it, there are a couple of features that will be rolling out with the launch itself, and a couple of those we're going to show you today. Then there's a whole host of other user features that we won't be rolling out with the launch, but in the near future, we'll roll those out. The reason for that is we want to have additional time to look into the testing and integration of these features into our current world. And lastly, there are many changes to the back end and the administrative components to CaseWorthy, excuse me, that users don't see on the surface, and the upgrade does contain many of those items. Your help is important to us because when we talk about user acceptance testing, that is literally having the real world day-to-day users of the functionality tested out to make sure that it works. So it's verified and tested by the people who do that work on a daily basis. The reason why we want to do that is because we can catch any glitches or issues that we would like to address ahead of it launching in our production environment. And we picked you for a couple of reasons. One of them, you were picked because we feel that you are confident and comfortable in using HMIS, and so it will be easy for you to transition over to a test environment and take it for a spin and see how it goes. Additionally, we were looking to include a broad selection of agencies and a variety of different project types, so that at the end of the day, we can feel that we have comprehensively taken a look at the features and the uses of version 8.0. What is the UAT environment? UAT, user acceptance testing. Actually, I'd like you to think of it as kind of a noun and a verb. The noun piece is the actual environment itself, and that is where a recent copy of our production data is overlaid with the functionality of the version 8 software. And that creates an environment where we can go out and test. Sometimes that's called a sandbox or a UAT or an upgrade environment or a UAT database. It's called by many different things, but that's the actual environment in which we'll test. UAT can also be considered a verb because it's actual testing that users are completing on behalf of their businesses in preparation for the rollout of software. The good thing about having this environment to play with is that, again, we can try out our day-to-day functionality that you're familiar with, and you'll even have some data that is real-world data. It might be about a week old, that you'll be able to play with or mess up with out there. And you do not need to worry that you are messing up production. Because at the end of the day, when we're done with testing, we will be deleting this data. This data in this test environment will not be overlaid into production. So feel free to play with your heart's content because you cannot break anything. CaseWorthy has come out with an upgraded version of minimum requirements for their new software, and any user computer that accesses CaseWorthy, they have a minimum for the operating system, the browser, and also for Microsoft Office. Now, we currently don't use any of the features of Office, but we anticipate including some of that functionality in the near future. And they even have minimum requirements as far as your connectivity to the internet. What we would ask of you is, if you're not familiar with these items, you would take it to the tech person at your agency and ask them to look this over to assure that you are meeting those minimum requirements. And overall, we will be sending this information out to all of the system admins well in advance so that agencies do have time to prepare before the launch. And if I hadn't mentioned it before now, we are targeting March 5th as the launch date for the upgraded version of CaseWorthy version 8. So let's talk about a couple of these new features that you're going to see when you're in the environment. And the first one is the universal back button. This button allows users to navigate back through previous screens on the current click trail. Currently, if you were at a screen and wanted to go back, you would probably come and click on the breadcrumbs, and it may or may not have what you wanted to go back to. The breadcrumbs were nice, but it was limited because it didn't work well with dashboards. Now, with this new button available, you should be able to step back through each and every screen that you were on while working in the system. And I should say back to the starting point, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. The next thing I wanted to call out is CaseWorthy has gone in and redesigned both templates and report headers. An example of a template would be the client care notes template. What I have on the screen here is an example of a report header redesign. And if you looked at the program summary report in our current version 7.2, this is what the header information looks like. This is what the body of the summary report looks like. And here again is the header for the sub-report detail that goes along with it, and the data for that sub-report for one of these options I selected here. If you go look at this exact same report with the same parameters I ran in version 8.0, the upgraded one, you'll see that the header has been redesigned and looks different. not only for the main report, but also the sub-report. You can tell it has a different graphic. But of course, at the end of the day, the report visual might look a little different, but the data itself is exactly the same. All right, now I'd like to go ahead and jump over to the user acceptance environment and give you a quick preview of that. The first thing you're going to notice, I don't know if you pay attention to URLs, is it does have the URL, it says upgrade here. Why it doesn't say UAT or version 8 UAT or whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll give you the link. You can just click on the link and you're going to know definitely that you're in the user acceptance test environment, because one of the new features that they're rolling out is having different graphical pictures in the background. It's a set of canned pictures. This just happens to be one of them. And that will make it easier for you to distinguish, is this the login screen for production or is it the login screen for user acceptance testing? When it comes to the actual login, you will use the same name you do in production and actually the same password as well. Then once you're logged in, for the most part, everything looks very comfortable, I hope to you, very familiar. You are going to notice, though, that the theme or the color theme has changed. We turned it to red for the user acceptance environment so that you, again, could help delineate between, am I in the user acceptance environment or am I in production? Production, of course, has blue, and this user acceptance test environment has red. All right, let me show you the universal back button. You know what? We don't see it here, but that is by design, because at this point, this is where we started, so there's nothing to go back to. But let's just say I come in here, I look at the project enrollment. So right away, now that button shows up because it has something to go back to. And I'm thinking, yeah, so there aren't any enrollments here, but of course I'm in a test client. Let me come back, I think maybe the parent record has something for us to use. Okay, so now we have a new client, parent. There's nothing to go back to because we're starting here. Let's go look at the project enrollment. Right away, recognize that there is the universal back button. Let's say I come out here. I want to look at the members. And sure enough, I see that there are a couple of, at least here's one of the other records. I'm done looking at what I want. I could go add new members, do whatever. So I could continue working on screens. And every time I do, I'll be able to use this button to back up. So let me back up here, because let's just say we're done. Click that once. I'm going to come back to the enrollment member summary screen, the one right before this. And if I click it again, it's going to take me back to where I started, and the universal back button is gone. So that is what the universal back button does, and that's what it looks like. Pretty easy. I'll be curious for you to try it out and to let me know how that works for you and if you like it. While we're out here, I wanted to just show you a couple of other things. And if you recall, I said there are a handful of features that we're going to roll out day one from when we launch on March 5th. But there are also some features that we want to spend some more time looking into before we roll those out. And I just wanted to give you a sneak peek of what a couple of those are. And for that first one, I'd like to come up here to the entity section. And with version 8.0, they're allowing you to do a little bit of customization in this area. For instance, I've customized this one. Typically, it says first name as the label, and then the person's name, last name, and then the name. And of course, this is a test client, that's why it looks silly. What I've done, though, is because often what I see first name takes up so much space in this little area that if the person has a long first name or a long last name, it gets truncated. So I've simply changed this label to just say first and this one to say last. So that's just a little sneak peek of something that we're playing with. Let me know what you think about this, and actually we can show you additional functionality and fields that are available to show up here and how you can customize this. Another feature that we aren't rolling out on March 5th, but would like to in the near future, is a feature that allows you to tie instructional videos to forms and even fields. I clicked on Find Client, and this is CaseWorthy's Find Client video that you could watch, and it will give you some background and tell you what excuse me, what features and how to use these fields. So this is a neat way to integrate support right into the system itself. We want to have some time to look at it, see how we should roll it out, but I wanted again to show you what it looks like. After you ran the video, you could X out of your window, you could close it. Here, you have the option to do not show again. Let me just close it. And the other neat thing is this is a picture of a little video camera. And so if you click on that, that will always bring whatever video is tied to the Find Client, or whatever functionality that the video is tied to will be available to users. So that again is a little sneak peek on some of the features that we are continuing to look into that we will roll out in the near future. All right, just to wrap this up, I wanted to talk about user acceptance testing and the next steps that you have. First, just to recap, on logging in, you'll be using this URL. And once you click on it, here's an example of some of the pictures that might show up. I think there's about 5 or 6. Too bad that we can't customize these to our own pictures. We cannot. But it does make it look a little different, and that will make it very easy for you to distinguish between our production environment and the UAT environment. Once you're out on the UAT, use your same username and your same password to log in. And once you have logged in, another reminder that you're in the user acceptance testing environment is we've changed the theme to a red color when our production environment is blue. Okay, so once you log in, we ask you to go ahead and perform UAT testing. Annie had provided a spreadsheet with a list of items that she would like you to step through. It might take 15 to 30 minutes. She completed it yesterday, and it took her 15 minutes, I believe she told me. So hopefully it won't take too much of your time. And when you're going through the checklist, if you're unable to complete any task, make sure you just make a note of not tested or didn't test or whatever, so that we know that it wasn't left blank because it was missed. Additionally, make note of anything that appears quirky or wrong or different for you. And also make note of what you like and don't like. And beyond just using that checklist, we really do encourage you to take the opportunity to go out and spend some time in this user acceptance test environment and just walk through typical kind of day. Not that you build your whole day out there, but just some of the unique things that you do in the system. And remember, you don't need to worry about breaking anything or changing your production data, because at the end of the day, when we are done with this test environment, we're going to delete it. So we are not impacting our production data in any way. We ask that you have your spreadsheets back to us by Wednesday, February 5th. That gives us about a month to kind of wrap things up before we actually roll out. the version 8.0 to our entire user community. Lastly, Annie wanted to call out a couple of things that she's already recognized when she was in the system. And number one, that the case notes screen now defaults to individual and family, where before it was individual. And additionally, she's looking at some of the programming specs for the path report because she feels like that looks a little bit different. And those are just some of the things that she has found. You might come across different things, and please make note and let us know. And throughout this period, if you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to Hanid or myself, and we would love to hear from you and ready to help. The last thing that I do want to call out is that I have noticed if I have a browser window open and I'm in production and I open a new tab and try to pull up the user acceptance environment, you can only be logged into one at a time, so be aware of that. And as well, even if you're logged out of one, but it's still an open tab, you might get a message from CaseWorthy saying that you must close it or log out. What you need to do there is literally close that window of your browser and open a new window, and you should be good to go. I thank you very much for your time today. I thank you for supporting the user acceptance testing, and we look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you.